We are now going to be starting with this next session, which is themed Innovation and Utilities During the Pandemic in the Plenary Hall. And
yes, perfect. So we start. Okay.
And we have our moderator now in our midst, Mr. Richard Schomburg, the IEC Ambassador and Chairman, IEC Smart Energy Systems Committee and Vice President of EDF. Like I said, he's the IEC Ambassador for Smart Energy, recipient of IEC 2011 Lord Kelvin Award, and he's designed multi-million euro complex systems for critical operations. He's been Professor of Systems Engineering in Paris. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're just awaiting the arrival of a few more speakers who are going to be joining us.
Let's start now.
This is
Richard and
Yes. We can hear you, Reggie. Hello, Reggie. Hello, you're speaking, but we cannot hear you.
Reggie, you are on mute.
Very strange because there is no mic.
Reggie, mute. Reggie, you are on mute.
Reggie, we cannot hear you. Digital transformation is not an easy thing, right?
I sent him a text. I think he's working on it.
Okay.
Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of technical glitches, I think, but now we're ready to go. And what I'm going to do at this juncture is I'm going to just request our moderator, Richard Schomburg, Mr. Richard Schomburg, to please take over the proceedings. Very briefly, let me tell you that in this session, we have in our midst Mr. Mark F. McGranagan, Vice President, Electric Power Research Institute. We have Mr. Ganesh Srinivasan, Chief Executive Officer, Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited. Mr. Benny Suryadi, Manager Policy Research and Analytics, ASEAN Center for Energy, which is ACE. We have with us Mr. Vineet Sikka, Business Head, BSES Rajdhani Power Limited, Mr. Brajesh Kumar, Senior Vice President, Business, BYPL, Mr. Gerhard Gampel, Director, Head of Strategy, Corporate Development and Sustainability, Verbund, Austria. We have Mr. Leonid Lev, Senior Expert and Manager, Israel Electric Company, Mr. Murali Krishna Gannamani, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Fluent Grid Limited, and Mr. R.P. Singh, VP of Strategic Partnerships and Customer Success, Smart Energy Water. With that, I'm now going to hand over the proceedings of this session to Mr. Richard Schomburg, who is the IEC Ambassador and Chairman, IEC Smart Energy Systems Committee and Vice President, EDF. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. Actually, we have started already the introduction, so for the sake of time, I'm not going to redo this entire introduction of the session. And I would like, without any further ado, to give the floor to Mark McGranagan to actually restart his presentation. Once again, each speaker is requested to actually fit in a 10 minutes time slot. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. Thank you very much. We should have a timer on the screen helping you for the 10 minutes. I know Mark is a very reliable speaker, so there won't be any problem there. Mark, the floor is yours.
Okay, Richard, thank you very much. Let me make sure that you can hear me okay, good.
Perfectly.
Share my screen, and I'll be quick. I think I can set the stage for the session nicely and just talk about, give a little history on the pandemic and how utilities around the world collaborated to adjust the way they operated and manage the grid to deal with the pandemic and maintain the reliability and resiliency of the grid to keep things functioning. So we'll talk about that, managing through the pandemic, and then we'll just touch on what that means for the future. And as an illustration of the collaboration that occurred starting basically a year ago right now. You know, we had webcasts with utility operators and planners and maintenance folks from around the world participating in webcasts early on, almost every week and every other week, and sharing what they were learning and how they were dealing with the situation with each other. And this spirit of collaboration, I think, is something that we noticed in really all aspects of society in dealing with the pandemic, and really was one of the encouraging aspects, you know, of life during the pandemic. So this is something that EPRI helped coordinate, and many other organizations as well. What do we have to deal with? You know, this picture here is illustration of the New York, actually the New York ISO control center. The pictures of the camper vans are something that a few utilities went all the way to sequestration of their operator staff. This is an example from National Grid in the US, where staff lived in camper vans for 2 weeks at a time so that they weren't exposed to other folks that may have had the virus. So, but many aspects like this occurred during the pandemic, and changing the way we operated and managed the system, being able to do health checks of operators and engineers, figuring out how to operate remotely the grid, and dealing with what that meant from an IT and a cybersecurity point of view, training. So we'll talk about a few of these things. And there was as I mentioned, there was a big focus on sharing as we were learning, as we were going, sharing this information, whether it had to do with being able to continuously check the health of individuals through thermography, or how to clean the operations center in between shifts as effectively as possible, using various kinds of disinfectants, stuff that we learned from the way hospitals disinfect, and applying that to operating centers, to how we manage the grid in terms of maintenance and dealing with emergencies that come up when we had crews that were limited in size, and new prioritization procedures for dealing with that. So many adjustments that the utility was learning as they went. So as we gathered this information about the way utilities were responding during the pandemic, we put together a project that is ongoing to deal with how we can be better prepared for future emergencies, whether they be pandemics or weather related or other aspects. And this project has many different aspects, as is indicated on this slide, from continuing to work on understanding the health of the staff and disinfection approaches, to how we operate control centers in the future, and whether there's important lessons learned from this past year, how we deal with field crews and keep them safe, and minimize exposure and the chances of crews getting sick. Training is a big focus to come up with new approaches for remote training. We're seeing many tools that support this. Our ability to forecast the load, really became difficult as load patterns changed, as people were working from home. Commercial buildings had less people in them. Industrial load changed based on people ability to staff the facilities. So being able to forecast demand and operating accordingly became a very important issue, and taking advantage of expert systems and data analytics can help with that in the future. so and even all the way to asset management and being able to take advantage of remote sensors and understanding the performance of the system. So there's a lot of good work going on as we speak. And I think it's important to look forward, and maybe be a theme of our discussion here today is how we take these lessons learned, and as we invest in kickstarting the economy, we're seeing that countries around the world are really committing some serious resources to getting the economy going again. And how are we going to use those resources? You know, and that's the slide on the left takes 4 different scenarios of how that could go forward. And of course, there won't be any one of those scenarios. There'll be some combination, but taking into account whether we use these investments to continue the direction of transforming the energy system and investing in solving climate change issues and working on a new energy system, or will we kind of take a step back and just operate and manage and invest the way we have in the past? So I think those are 2 directions, and we're seeing a push to this really building this green economy and investing in an energy system that also is addressing climate change issues. And as we do that, we want to look at opportunities for collaboration. That's the kind of the x-axis, is can we accelerate this process by collaborating around lessons learned and helping the whole world take advantage of the lessons that we're learning as we go forward. And so that kind of upper right hand, if we can fast forward to the energy system of the future and build on innovations and taking advantage of those innovations and adopt them quicker, is the goal as we go forward. And it makes it a very exciting time going forward. I'll just finish by referencing a document. If you go to EPRI.com/COVID-19, you can find all the references and webcasts that occurred during the pandemic for collaboration and information sharing. And as I said, it is very exciting to kind of be part of this collaboration and information sharing that's very strong in the industry right now, and it makes it very exciting. So Richard, I'll turn it over to you and be available to answer questions in the chat as we go forward with the session. Thank you very much.
Oh, excellent, Mark. Excellent setting, where it definitely has been showing that, of course, utilities have to keep delivering what they used to deliver, but also having to face a resilience test, a live resilience test, and the economic stimulus crisis response is very impressive. I think you've shown it very clearly that there is so much resources that are lined up that definitely we should make sure that we're going to use all of this to build a better tomorrow, to actually bank on this adversity. Thank you very much. Very, very clear. And I'd like to invite now Ganesh Srinivasan, the CEO of Tata Power Delhi Distribution. That's a very famous distribution utility. And I have in mind their incredible smart grid lab in Delhi. And I'm eager to hear the return of experience and the recommendations of Tata Delhi Power Distribution. Ganesh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Richard. Am I audible?
Very well.
Okay, thank you. And you're able to see the screen as well, my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Mark, for setting the context very well. I will be talking through the Tata Power Delhi distribution experience of how we managed the unprecedented situation, and as well talk through some of the things that we did which we think are innovative. So as all of us are aware, it was really a a very challenging situation. This graph basically shows the drop in national demand. So a national demand drop of about 20% is what we saw. However, in Delhi, the drop, given that we have a large commercial base of customers, commercial and industrial, particularly in the March, April, May time frame, both in terms of units or peak megawatt, there was close to anywhere from 30 to 40%, 30 to 40% drop in the demand. So this was a major setback as far as distribution utility finances are concerned, given that a large quantum of our costs are fixed in nature, and especially the commercial and industrial demand kind of disappearing overnight had a profound impact on us, not only on the finances, but of course also with respect to all the restrictions of travel, etc., that we had. Obviously, there was a huge impact on collection. As you can see here, March, we had about a 10-day impact. So to a large extent, it was limited. But the brunt of the issues were, this is a 12-month rolling. So actually, to actually think that 3% drop, although it sounds low, this is actually a 12-month rolling impact. So just this 1 month of impact in April has had a 3% over the last 12 months of the year. So we had a dramatic drop in collection, particularly in April and May. And of course, things have started looking up since in June. So this was a major challenge. And the other issue was, of course, the mix. As you can see, roughly our mix is about 50-50. That is 50% domestic and 50% other than domestic, which is mostly commercial and industrial. And the context in that mostly the domestic demand is below the average cost of supply, and or the domestic tariff is below the cost of supply. And domestic, other than domestic, commercial and industrial tariffs are higher than the cost of supply. So to a large extent, the commercial and industrial revenues do offset or cross-subsidize the domestic aspect. So particularly in April, May, June, and July, we have had a completely lopsided mix. So close to 90% domestic and only 10% non-domestic. Obviously, 90% of the units being below cost and 10% being above cost. So this has had a huge cash flow impact on us. So I would say to tide over that eventuality, we looked at 5 or 6 major aspects. And I'll talk very briefly about each one of them. Obviously, operations and commercial, how does the show go on a day-to-day basis, 24/7? That was one aspect. Vendor and material management, because we were operating in a normal scenario where we have limited inventory, assuming that we will have supplies as and when we reach our reorder levels, but we had to relook at that. Customer connect, how did we manage that? Cash flow, as I said, very, very critical for us to keep the lights on. Employee health and morale, and of course, cyber security, given the larger work from home that was necessitated. So since we were starting off on a pretty decent digitization and automation level, there was no major challenge as such to ensure continuity of operations. We have an advanced distribution management system, which is integrated with field force automation. So most of the normal restoration of power supply was done through our normal process of through the ADMS and field force automation. Also, the commercial processes, we had to augment a few of them. For example, we introduced a self-meter reading provision for the customer, and also bills on other, of course, we were sending it earlier on email and links on SMS, but we also started a WhatsApp service so that customers can get their reading bill without actually somebody going and delivering that. We also started, actually, this is something that we learned from one of the EPRI webcasts, a concept of cold bench strength. So we had, particularly in our power system control, we ensured that there was a full team that was actually based out of home, not actually coming to site. And in case a large number of people from a given crew or a shift actually get impacted, we will be able to replace lock, stock and barrel the entire team, because there was always a risk that a larger number of people in a certain group will get impacted. So we had a concept of cold bench strength. So we had normal circumstances, we had people working for 3 days, going back home, and then staying at home for 3 days. In addition to that, we had another set of people who are working from home continuously and called in as a group only in case of eventuality. So we ensured that we are not caught napping when there is a large spread of infection. Thankfully, it didn't happen, but that's what we planned. We had also set up a temporary backup control center, a kind of although we have a main and backup control center, given that we really do not know how much the infection will spread or COVID will spread, we set up another backup control center to ensure that we have an N-2 contingency. If it's really required. And of course, we used smart meters to very, very good effect. We have close to 0.2 million smart meters out of our 1.7 million customer base. So put together with smart metering and our automatic meter reading, close to 60 to 70% of our units were billed, and there was no issue of average reading or provisional billing that we had to do. So that came to our rescue for a large quantum of units. We also did, although I should say that we're still learning in this aspect, a drone-based inspection and surveys, especially in areas that were identified as containment zones, where it was not possible for our crew to enter because of government restrictions. So we did try in a limited manner drone-based inspection. They were very successful to figure out any hotspots that, particularly since this was summer, we had to be more careful. The second aspect that I'll speak about is vendor and material management. This was a very weird situation where we were not able to visit any of the factories, and typically for any material that is required, something like switch gear or any other material, if it is coming, typically there is a sample inspection of a lot that is done. So we had to do that virtually during the pandemic and ensure that all the measurements or the tests that we were able to observe that on the virtual mode. That took some getting used to, but it helped to move the process forward and ensure that we did get timely material at our stores. Also, we ensured that we went an extra step, coordinated with the administrative agencies to ensure that all our vendors and suppliers did not face any administrative challenges in terms of movement, because the muscle or the influence that a Tata Power or Tata Group has with respect to convincing the administration about certain urgencies, each and every vendor is not capable of that. So we went through that step to ensure that they do not face any difficulty, so that in a way help them help us. Another aspect was we ensured that we kept track of every vendor, which kind of location is he based out of. This was dynamic because on a daily basis, the red, orange, green zones were changing. Certain streets were earmarked as red. So we kept track of, okay, where are our risks and how do we counter that in case of a particular emergency as far as low inventory. And lastly, I think most important, I would say, we did ensure that we released timely payment for all of these vendors, because without that, their whole economics would have ground to a stop. They still had to do all the statutory clearances, all the processes that are required. Although this is a bit mundane, but very, very, very critical aspect to keep the show going on. The third aspect I would like to touch upon is customer connect. We launched a very interesting service called as the missed call service. So although we had a call center working, but the call center was operating at very thin staff because there were a lot of call center agents who were actually not willing to come to the call center, understandably, for their own health concerns. So we launched a missed call service by which the customers will be able to just call a number, and their call, particularly no supply or no power complaints, are registered automatically if their number is registered, is they're calling from a registered customer number. The second aspect is our IT team did a fabulous job of figuring out how to divert calls, because we had to ensure that although we were working with skeleton staff at the call center, how do we use the team who are working from home, call center agents working from home? And this was something that was phenomenal, and it helped us a lot so that we were able to use the services of those who could not come to the call center as well. The third is, of course, virtual consumer connect. We did a host of sessions on simple platforms like Zoom and Teams to ensure that we connected with our customers, particularly resident welfare associations, industry welfare associations, so that whatever queries they had or whatever issues they had, and we are available for the customers to speak to and understand what we can do so that things are clear for the customers. Of course, multiple digital channels available for payment. That has always been the case, but we went much more in terms of continuous promotion of that. And also things like enforcement assessment. So that if there was a dispute or we booked the theft case with the customer, how do we close that loop? We started virtual hearings also for that. That was very helpful to recover some of the revenue that was stuck with the customers. Cash flow, as I said, it was a huge setback for us. As you can see, the collection close to 100, 130 crore, 150 crore less than the previous years. So this was a major issue. April and May was the substantial challenge, given that there were also concessions given by the regulator to our customers. So the customers did have some relaxation in payment, but we as a DISCOM had to make payments to our generators and transcos. So we used bill discounting quite substantially to ensure that we are able to make our payments at least on time. Usually we pay within 30 days, but we use the extra 30 days, which is available as per provisions, and 60 days, but we were able to make that payment. And bill discounting was really helpful on behalf of the generators. We worked in partnership with the generators to ensure that they got the funds and we pay them over a staggered period over the following 6 months. So that has been really helpful for us to ensure that our liquidity is maintained. Most important aspect was employee health and morale. Of course, we had several, almost on a fortnightly basis, we used to share. In fact, starting, we had a weekly status of any number of cases that were there in the company. The reality was that, yes, we did not have zero infections. We did go through a curve, which is very similar to the curve that we faced in the city. So, for example, June, July was a peak, then October was a much higher peak, but we ensured that people are communicated to. How many cases are active at any point in time was known to everybody. We set up systems for logging people to register whenever they come to work, self-declare whether they are facing any symptoms, and their location is tagged. So we know in case there is a certain, if a person is infected, who are the other employees in that location is easily available in a database. We also had a lot of, I would say, mental health related programs, physical fitness, entertainment, talk shows. So a lot of virtual fun events. So we ensured that as much as possible, we're able to give employees a release from the stress that was there, the stress of the unknown. That was something that we ensured. And also all payments made on time for both employees as well as contract labor. That was very, very important signal to send that the organization is behind each one of them. Lastly, I would like to share that we did review our cybersecurity protocols with respect to patching over the internet, because a large number of workforce, I think we operated with about 15 to 20% of the team only coming to office, whereas 80% of the individuals were working from home. So we ensured that our cybersecurity protocols were reviewed, all the lab patching, antivirus updates, all that was reviewed, so that because it was a reality that we had to use the internet to access our systems, ensure that all our external users use the reverse proxy, all web applications are enabled with CAPTCHA. So host of things that we did so that we secure it to the best extent possible. So these are some of the aspects that we were able to take care of. I would say that it was a great learning experience for all of us to figure out how to service our customers 24/7, how to maintain our cash flow so that the whole ecosystem is healthy. And I would say that across the company and across the system, it was a phenomenal learning experience to respond to that and grow from that experience. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. This is really an incredible success story. It's a very impressive, compelling, and comprehensive presentation, and just incredible achievements. I'm very impressed there. And also I noticed that the operations and commercial were actually able to sustain, and I would guess it's because you invested early in the digitalization and you were far enough in the digitalization before you had to face this pandemic. And also you've been relying on 1.2 million smart meters also. So I think this is a great lesson where we need to move forward fast enough and invest significantly to be able to actually rely completely on those infrastructure. And you highlight, of course, the cybersecurity, which is becoming an incredibly challenging aspect. Thank you so much, Ganesh.
Thank you.
You're right in time for your next appointment. Now, I would like to invite Amal Sinha, CEO of BSES Rajani Power. That is a very famous utility that has been doing an incredible reduction of AT&C losses. And I'm eager to see how they've been able to face the COVID pandemic and what are the learnings and recommendations. The floor is yours, Sinha. Amal Sinha.
Good afternoon. Mr. Amal Sinha has not been available, so I'm Vineet Sikka. I'll be presenting on his behalf. And I am the head commercial for BSES Rajdhani Power. Am I audible to all? And my screens are visible?
Screen visible, and you please switch on the projector mode so that we have the full screen. Yes, here.
Can you see now?
Yes, perfect.
Right.
Please go ahead.
So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Richard, for giving us this opportunity to share with the audience how BSES Rajdhani Power mitigated the situation of COVID, which suddenly arose last year. And till date, though the lockdown is open, but still there are challenges, and still we are, taking various steps. So COVID, as we know, has had an unprecedented global impact, but an equal global response as well. And apart from doctors, nurses, other paramedical officials, electricity is another essential services which keeps the other services live. So a very important role for the distribution sector, for the distribution companies to give 24/7 power supply during COVID time. And we are very proud that we maintained 24/7 supply throughout the lockdown, throughout the COVID time, and still maintaining it, keeping in mind the safety of all our consumers and all our employees and other stakeholders like vendors as well. And of course, everybody knows COVID forced us to create a new normal, which nobody had witnessed in the past, especially in the electricity sector. So this has really given the opportunity to the whole sector to create new things and implement for the better customer services. As far as BSES Rajdhani Power is concerned, we as a distribution company have been working on the digitization for past many years. Of course, a lot of digitization has happened in the network also, on the network side also, on the customer side also. Of course, for the last 5-6 years, we have been working towards the customer centricity, keeping in mind the B2C mindset. I also mentioned B2C in my last meeting of Smart Grid Forum, because consumer is same. He sees the distribution company, he expects the distribution company to be in line with the other services getting. So BSES has been working for the last 5-6 years, developing a lot of new things, a lot of new innovations. So innovation is not something new which COVID brought into BSES, but of course it's accelerating our actions to bring in more customer centricity. So during the COVID time, we launched a couple of customer-friendly initiatives, because all the consumers were locked inside the homes. They were not able to visit. And of course, we would not encourage them to visit also. So a lot of new things we developed in addition to the already running initiatives. One was, of course, the online applications. Instead of people coming to the offices, they can just straight away go online and apply for connections, name change, load change, all sort of services. Virtual services. So we created a virtual service center. WhatsApp, we launched WhatsApp services in a small way. We had launched 3 years back, and now we further, extended this for other services. Like self-meter reading was the one thing which was introduced, and that worked beautifully during the COVID time. We educated the consumers how to, take the picture of the meter and then send to us for a actual bill rather than a provisional bill. Bill download, how to see the consumption, bill payment, everything was automated through the WhatsApp services. During the COVID, of course, our customer help desk were working with a reduced staff, and the cash counters also were working with a reduced staff. Our field teams for maintaining 24/7 supply were all in the field. Our commercial staff was again working in a staggered way so as to ensure the social distancing as well as safety of the consumers as well as our staff. So we introduced the post-COVID, once the lockdown opened, we introduced a appointment-based system for our customer help desk also, so that there are no queues and there is no rush up. That worked beautifully. For RWAs, we introduced for the non-tech savvy consumers, especially the senior citizens, we organized certain mobile care centers in the RWAs, digitized mobile centers, so that the people who are not comfortable or not tech savvy can, especially senior citizens, they can come and get their things addressed. Callback option was also introduced, that if consumer cannot use our app or other things, digital modes, they can just give a call back and give a missed call and we'll call them back. Same way, Pay Now link and then virtual local alerts for settlement of cases for addressal of any grievances of consumers in the virtual mode was introduced for the first time during this time. During this time, of course, the cash was a major challenge. And like Mr. Ganesh mentioned, the cash crunch was acute during this time because all the commercial establishments except hospitals or medical shops and all industrial establishments were closed. And in Rajdhani Power, we have two very large consumers, Delhi Airport and Delhi Metro. They were both closed and the consumption dropped almost 40% during the time, which means the billing dropped and in turn the collection also dropped. But despite that, we didn't stop the activities which were planned in the field. So CapEx was optimized, of course, used in an optimized way. And during once at the fag end of the lockdown, once it opened, we also started working on the 2 grids of 66 kV, which were made operational recently, and which catered to 2.5 lakh consumers additionally. And one more important thing, which I think earlier also everybody would be aware, if not, I would like to share. BSS Rajdhani Power was given the responsibility for setting up the power distribution system for a 10,000 bed COVID hospital, and which is the largest, I think, globally, the COVID center for 10,000 beds and a huge load of 23 megawatt. This was commissioned in record time of 15 days, and that was sometime in end June and July while the lockdown was on and the unlock one was going around. So we commissioned this system in a record time of 23 days because this was the need of the hour, and that time the COVID cases also were on the rise. So this is a very important milestone our company has achieved, delivering this in record time. And of course, all our teams were working. Few pictures here show how our teams were working in the field, in the containment zones also, which were notified by government, and we were taking proper precautions in terms of safety gear like PP kits, etc. People who were working in the field. Another aspect was employees, because employee is the asset of the organization, and being a distribution company, our strength of people is quite large, not only our own, but the contractor employees. So we ensured that the employees are taken care. People who were in the field, they were given enough protective equipment. People who were not into 24/7 supply, like back-end staff, they were made to work from home. Physical meetings were converted to virtual meetings. And regularly our L&D staff, learning and development staff, were giving the trainings to the teams, not only to the employees, but to their families also. And especially for people who were sick, a special sort of help desk for COVID was made, anybody falling sick, he was ensured that he get proper medical attention, and a regular touch was maintained with him so that he recovers fast. And luckily, we didn't have much cases. There were some cases, but we could manage those without any implications. We also launched, of course, government had an app. We also launched internally for in-house use a BRPL Suraksha mobile app, safety mobile app, wherein you can measure your temperature and other things so as to ensure that everybody is safe. Now, change management after pandemic is a big challenge. Now, as soon as the lockdown opened, because during lockdown, our field activities like meter reading, bill distribution was stopped. So once the lockdown opened, there was a huge rush from consumers that our provisional bills need to be changed to the actual bills. So that was one expectation for the consumer, very right expectation, and we immediately acted to that. And all the bills, most of the bills which consumer wanted, they were actualized through self-meter reading or by deputing our meter reading staff. Now, revenue hit, like already mentioned by earlier speakers, and I also mentioned that most in our area, most of the large consumers like airport, Delhi Metro, many five-star hotels, all were closed except some hospitals which were converted into COVID hospitals. So we got a big brunt of 40% reduction in the demand as well as the billing and of course the collections. So, but luckily in the domestic category, our demand was more or less flat or marginal improvement in the demand because people were working from home. So most important for us was to keep in touch with the domestic consumers. So we introduced for the first time ever a virtual meeting with the RWAs. So we covered almost about 2,000 RWAs during this meeting. 2,000 RWAs means you can see many in terms of head counts, more than 10,000 head counts we covered. And they were being facilitated in terms of inquiring about their well-being and about their family in case they need any help. So in terms of power supply issues, also we were trying to engage with the consumers and also parallelly requesting them that since all the commercial and industrial establishments are down, we count on you only for the cash flow. And to a great surprise that everybody contributed in a big way during that time and still. To our surprise, earlier our digital payments, of course, we created a lot of new platforms for digital payments and getting the bills. Earlier, pre-COVID, our total number of consumers who were paying digitally were around 72%. During COVID times, 90% of the consumers were paying digitally. So this was a good experience that after we introduced and we propagated and we engaged with the consumers to pay digitally, they came online and paid digitally. So that was one good thing during that time. Of course, there were other challenges of finances and all, which every discount will have, but the consumer came in a positive way to support whatever possible was there. Now on the digital front, like I mentioned, BRPL digital journey has not started now, it has started long back. A lot of work has been done, but COVID time gave a boost to the digitization. There are many more new things in the plan, like a lot of things related to artificial intelligence, machine learning, data lake. We are using drones now, also the virtual reality for training our people. So many more such things are there. And to motivate the consumers to enhance customer centricity further, we are coming out with something like called Consumer Digital Club, that people who do digital transactions pay digitally download. So we'll have some sort of a club sort of facility with some benefits to them. Virtual customer help desk. Our aim is to reduce our footfall to our centers, physical centers, to minimum and increase our footfall on the digital modes. WhatsApp already I mentioned. And same way we introduced the concept of digital Seva Kendras like Passport Seva Kendras a few years back. Now we'll be connecting these Seva Kendras, interconnecting so that if you work at one place and stay at another place, you can go to any center and get the work done. So this I already have mentioned, customer expectations have changed post-COVID. Consumer wants better service. Their habits have changed in terms of using more digital modes. So that I'm sure will continue in the future as well. So, and secondly, we also engaged with the students in some of the schools virtually for energy saving and good digital programs, because that also gave a lot of dividend, because one child in a family will really spread this word of digital to at least 4 or 5 people in his family. So in nutshell, there are many more things, but in nutshell, in the limited time, this is what BSS Rajdhani Power has mitigated the COVID time. Learnings which we gained during COVID times will continue in the coming times as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vini. And this is a very interesting testimony where we saw how your utility has been agile and innovative enough to bank on the social media capabilities for multiple customer-friendly innovations. And also, as you mentioned, you were able to really power healthcare centers, which is a critical mission for utilities. Thank you very much, Vinit. Now I'd like to invite Nuki Agya Utama, Executive Director of the Asian Center for Energy, which is a catalyst to unify and strengthen cooperation, which is a knowledge hub also, and a think tank to assist members on research and identifying practical and specific solutions and policies. So, Nuki Agya, the floor is...
Right. Thank you very much, Richard. My name is Benny Suryadi from the ASEAN Center for Energy, and I'm going to present it on behalf of the Dr. Nuki Agya Utama, the Executive Director. I think that my audio is okay, and I'm going to also share screen, so that's going to be would you mind to confirm my slide? The slide is okay.
Starts sharing, is not yet there.
Okay.
Okay, if you would up with the projector mode, please.
Is it okay now? It's
Oh, it's a strange black screen. Now it's a black screen.
oh, it's black screen. Is this still black screen, or
yeah, it's the black screen?
Or should I stop?
Benny, I think you can play in the earlier mode only, not the presentation mode. That will be better, I guess.
Okay, let's try it. How about now? It's also
you can exit. Yes, now we can see the screen.
And then projector mode, please. Yes.
How about now? Okay.
Much better.
Okay. Yes. So thank you, Richard, and apologize everyone for a bit glitch. And hello from Jakarta, Indonesia. I know it's around 5,000 kilometers from Delhi, but it took like 12 hours to flying from Jakarta to Delhi, because we don't have a direct flight, so it needs a couple hours transit whether in Singapore, Bangkok, or Kuala Lumpur. But as previous speaker is talking, a very specific case in utilities, and then allow me to share in a bit more wider perspective coming from the Southeast Asia region about what happened on the power sector issue with the utilities due to the COVID-19 pandemics. So this is a kind of the brief about what I'm going to speak in 9 minutes or less about that, what the COVID-19 brings to the ASEAN, and then how it impacted electricity, both in utility sides, with the Ministry of the customer side, and then how it's renewable energy playing its role, and then how the utility is seeing renewable energy as the main option there, and then what will look like for the ASEAN energy sectors. I mean, it's COVID-19. It's impacting everyone. No country is isolated with this issue, and then impacting everyone, impacting all the sectors. So it's very, very important to equip with a good understanding about what happened on this kind of situation. So in ACE, the ASEAN Center for Energy, that we are compiling all the information, news, and then conduct a study, and then provided the recommendation to be it coming from the policymakers to utility experts about what happened, and then how that impacts, so what happened in Indonesia, and then what happened in Malaysia, and then how does each other can share the experience and then benefiting each other, so that we can sail this challenging time together. So ACE is providing the COVID-19 Insight series, and then will be available for free to be accessed by everyone through our website. And like, I mean, it's gonna be happening everywhere. That's gonna be COVID-19 is indeed a significant crisis, and many of us say that never happened before. It's more than a unprecedented challenge for ASEAN economy and create uncertainty for the energy sector. So we see that how the contraction of the economy in most of the ASEAN members countries, and then we see also that how the people view the GDP projection before and after the COVID-19 happens, which directly and indirectly create uncertainty for the energy sectors. Energy sectors mean all sectors, whether it's on electricity, oil and gas, or others issue that's around. And talking about the electricity itself, that in the beginning of 2020, that ASEAN experienced significant electricity demands from. This is also similar case in India, the other countries, when the government in countries trying to implement the limitment on the movement, the restrictions is only allowing a central service to run. So we experience the electricity demand strength, which make the utility grapple with the revenue drops. It's going to be many countries like in Indonesia or the Vietnam that's going to be experiencing the similar issue. With the Philippines, it's going to be it falls between 6% or 5%. It goes to us. So several countries fall to reduce almost 25%, and then it's being translated into significant loss of the money, of the dollars, due to this declining electricity demand. Then to respond on this, it's utilities, because most of the utilities in ASEAN countries are state-owned utilities. I mean, in some points you can also say some is subsidies utilities from the government. So engagement from the government on stimulus package is very important for the utility itself, and then also cope with the customer side, especially for the vulnerable group, the customers, which is for the countries of Indonesia, is the majority of the customer is impacted. So we see that how the countries trying to choose a number of policies between the ministry and the utility to find the right scheme on this one. That's going to be like in Vietnam, Indonesia, targeting a specific market, specific class of the customers, that and then make some the tariff adjustment. Then it's definitely need to be aligned with the utility interest. I mean, for example, that's putting the prices down, but it will be impacting the utilities pocket directly, but then how can also solve from the customer side. Then but in the second half there is a strong rebound. That can be, even though it's still uncertain, but we see that how there is a high possibility for significant reintroduction of the ASEAN power sectors, leading to recovery pathway on the green issue, that when we see that when the previous project is being stalled but in the first half of the 2020, but then in the second half, utilities already gearing up back with a significant number of the projects to be reinstalled again, and then it's also being helped by a lot of stimulus financial packages being spared by the government as well as from the international communities. And one of the interesting finding from the discussion that we have in utility, that how the renewable energy is playing a significant role in this recovery process for the utilities. It struggles as well, but it's less severity compared to the electricity, on oil and gas, also in the power sector. So we saw in the second half of 2020, there is a quite resiliency with some major progress across the region, where originally we see the projects being delayed by the utilities because there is a declining for the demands. But then in the second half, we see that how the good collaboration between the government with the utilities about to settle the arrangement, the better arrangement for utilities for the power sector to regrow again. Like then we see that in the second half of 2020 that Myanmar saw tender concluded with a very interesting bid. Then also that how Vietnam with the EVNs strongly continue its effort on the renewable energy, in particular on the large scale rooftop and floating PV. So it's very the synergy between ministry with utility and finding the right scheme to keep the business going and then rerunning again for the green recovery is very, very important. And renewable is really playing a significant role in this recovery phase. So that when we see that it's going to be the government is working on, Indonesia is working on 1 billion solar driven economic recovery, which really being pushed to utilities in Indonesia, in particular PLN, and then also the other countries in region that where we see utilities really grabbing up with the opportunity of renewable energy. So it's being seen that renewable energy is expected to be major part of the power system in ASEAN, as the utilities also take this momentum to really set a system where allowing the higher penetration of renewable energy into their system. So this is a general on what happened on the power sector with impacting utility sides in the ASEAN energy sectors. There are 10 countries with 10 utilities, which although most of that is state-owned utility with vertical integrated markets, but then like other utilities around the world is also being impacted by the COVID-19. And then, but moving ahead with the 2021, that's maybe we are trying to continue to look a bright side. And then this is how the utility is seeing also a better future. And when everybody's talking about that the fossil rollout will be a game changer when it's allowing the economic activities running again, which leads to increase the demand on the electricity again. And then when the ASEAN countries putting a strong climate commitment, pushing more renewable energy into their system, and it really push the power sectors into the turning point for the green recovery. And then it will be get a very strong support from the international energy agenda, including what we have with the ASEAN-India cooperation with the ISGF. That's conclude my presentation. Thank you very much. Happy for the discussion. Thank you very much. Back to you, moderator, Mr. Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you for this very, very clear presentation with a lot of hope for 2021, showing how the efforts are shown to put renewable energy as a focus for the recovery strategies. And this is really quite momentum, right, to redirect energy landscape to more sustainable and build back better. And this is a real endeavor to have such a think tank in this region to federate and really help happen what is really needed there. This is a very, very important region. Thank you so much, Benny. Now I'd like to invite another utility to present. I'd like to invite Rajesh Kumar, Senior Vice President of BSES Yamuna Power Limited, which is a front-runner utility in implementing the power distribution reform in the capital city. And that is acknowledged actually for its quality, reliability, and customer-friendly practices. But we are eager to hear about your success story.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And thanks to ISGF also for giving us the opportunity to present ourselves. I don't have any presentation. I'll be speaking for 5-6 minutes on what we did during the COVID period and before and after the COVID period. So BSES Yamuna Power Limited is operating in a 200 square kilometer area, having 1.7 million consumer base, with 8,000 kilometer of distribution network and 4,000 transformers. Now, with regard to innovation, automation and technology, use of technology, we are doing it since beginning, and that has helped us to reduce our losses from 63% to below 8%. We started in 2002 at 63%. Now we are below 8%. Last year we closed. And our power supply reliability is 99.9%, and that remained 99.9% in the pandemic period also, as all the grids are SCADA attached to our SCADA system, and our entire network is on GIS. So we were able to maintain and monitor our power system during this pandemic period also. Now coming to this pandemic period, on 22nd or 23rd March, when it was announced that sudden lockdown, it was a surprise to us, and immediately we created a COVID facilitation center in our office headed by the CEO. And every evening we were having a meeting with regard to the updates on what is happening in the field and how are our employees and the consumers. So we stopped all the activities, commercial activities, immediately on 24th. They were sent to work from home, and the supply side of people in the supply side, they were divided into 3 parts, so that if any one group gets affected with this COVID, other groups can work without any fail, and the power supply remains continue. So this is what we did on the supply side, and facilitation center was operational 24/7. So anyone who wanted any feedback, any details, any support from the organization, that was provided through this COVID facilitation center. With regard to health and hygiene of the employees, we ensured that mask, sanitizer, liquid soap, infrared thermal guns, that are available in each and every offices for all the employees who are there in the office, because consumer was not allowed to come during initial period. So this was for all the employees. And when we started the consumer coming to the division during unlock first, then this was made available for the consumers also. Social distancing was also ensured through making markings, reducing the number of people attending the office. So these initiatives were taken during the COVID period. Awareness with regard to COVID was on a continuous basis, whether it is through posters, whether it is through WhatsApp messages to our employees or consumers, whether it is through seminars, whether it is through webcast. So it was done on a regular basis, so that each and every person is aware what the company is doing, what is the situation in Delhi or in India or worldwide. So we were circulating these type of mailers or information to all our consumers as well as to our employees, so that they remain safe and healthy. With regard to continuity of business, during May, when the first unlock was announced on, I think, 16th or 17th of May, immediately after that, we started our meter reading activities in the field. But before that, in April itself, self meter reading application was introduced, so that people who are not able to, the meter reader who are not able to go to the consumer front, consumer can send their meter reading through our meter reading apps. Now, with regard to the this pandemic has given us a very difficult situation, as well as they have given us an opportunity to improve in the technology side and digitization side. We started our internal meeting also through web, and even now we are continuing with that, and we are not meeting physically with each other. And this has made our life easy, that sitting on your desk, you can have the meeting and you don't have to spend the time in transit. So this has made the life easy. With consumers also, we have done the web meeting, whether it is RWAs, whether it is industrial association, whether it is trader association. So we are doing these meetings through web with them also, and updating them with regard to our services which we are providing to them. We started with regard to digital payment. Digital payment before pandemic, it was around 57%, which has now increased to 75%. So lots of initiatives have been taken, whether it is through SMS, we are sending the link to the consumer, whether it is at WhatsApp, they can make the payment through that also. And we have tied up with the payment wallets who are giving some benefits to the consumers. So the number of consumers are increasing on a regular basis. When we started consumer coming to our offices, when the unlock first was announced, there was a huge rush at our office. So it was very difficult to manage the people, and social distancing was very difficult. So what we did is that we started the appointment system in our office, that consumer will have to take the appointment. We were giving a scattered appointment to the consumer, and those consumer who were coming for a general inquiry, we were satisfying them on by the mail and WhatsApp itself. So this helped us in reducing the number of people coming to the office, and they were being entertained through various other digital platforms. Coming to what we are doing after the pandemic is, all the unlock has been announced. Still there are some areas where these are containment zones, but most of the area is now open. So still we are thinking how we can go digital with all other facilities also. So we have started virtual customer care centers, wherein 5 of our divisions are now live. Out of 14, 5 are live, wherein the consumers are 100% entertained through virtual mode. No consumer is approaching our customer care centers, and they are being entertained through web, and all their complaints, queries are being addressed over there. And very soon we will be replicating this to other remaining 9 divisions also, so that entire consumer is covered through virtual mode. And to assist them, we are also planning, if the consumer doesn't have the access to internet or smartphones, then we are planning to have some stations near to our complaint centers, where we will establish these type of centers, and the consumer can go there and have the discussion with their centralized customer care team to get their queries resolved. So this is what we are planning now. So this is what has been in the pipeline, and that will be done within next 3 months. With regard to this virtual customer care centers, this will in future will be converted to new connections also, wherein the consumer doesn't have to come with the documents to our office, or our people doesn't have to go to the consumer place for the document collection. They can show it on the web, and we can click it on the web itself, the documents, and we can take their credentials on the web, and we can release the connection. So these type of features we are trying to adopt. Other things, because we have four different discoms here, and the services which are being provided to the consumer are almost same for all the 4 consumers. So these, what other speakers have already said, that is common to all, but a few of the things which we started in this period, which I didn't heard from other people that I have added. So thank you very much, and we are continuing with our innovations and serving the consumer to their best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh, and that's a very interesting complementary information on how the Indian utilities have been able to actually step up and face the pandemic, and definitely be on the side of the consumers. Now, I'd like to invite Gerhard Gampel, who is Head of Strategy, Corporate Development and Sustainability of Verbund Austria, which is the leading electricity company, one of the largest producers of electricity from hydropower in Europe. Actually, close to 100% of their generation come from hydropower. Gerhard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Richard. I already tried to share my desk. Can you see my presentation?
We can see the slides. Please, if you can switch on the projector mode. Which is a small icon on the lower.
Yeah. Let me see.
Okay, don't worry. We can actually follow on with this screen set. So I invite you just.
Okay, if you can see.
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect. Let's proceed.
Thank you. Richard, thank you very much for the invitation to talk about the consequences and the impact of the pandemic on the innovation. I have put together some slides, and I want to start with kind of a resume in the beginning. What is our learnings? What is our learnings out of the pandemic situation? One of the most important learnings is we learned to live with remote processes, with a lot of virtual cooperation, collaboration that we started, and that most of our people, it's some 90% of our workforce, was forced to work from home. This was a completely new situation for us, but we learned to cope with this. Of course, when we are talking about the innovation process, there were some setbacks, of course. There were also some deliveries there were also some delays in the deliveries in the different processes. But what was important for us, we kept our pace in the innovation process. In the end, it was an enormous learning experience for us, and the innovation process has been adopted, of course. And and we are now in a newly and agile setup. But what was important for us, that the innovation goals on the midterm, on the long term, are still the same. So just one glimpse regarding Verbund. Richard, you already mentioned we're the #1 hydro supplier in the Central European area. We have 134 hydropower plants, and we are strongly investing also into the new generation business like solar and wind. And that's why we have a #1 position when we're talking about efficient and renewable power generation, whether this is hydropower or renewable generation. What you see here is, this is our 5 goals when we're talking about the strategy 2030. And as I said before, we are going to become one of the most important renewable generation companies within the Central European area. But we are also strong in our grid operation. We are TSO, and my colleague in 2 days will also present our efforts regarding blockchain. And I had the pleasure 2 years ago also to present our different steps regarding blockchain, and my colleague will present it in 2 days when we're talking about grid operation.
Hi, Gerhard.
Coming to the
Hi, Gerard.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you move the slides, or because we are still on the cover page, half of the presentation?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I have to escape. Okay. Sorry.
No problem.
Can you see?
Yeah. Okay.
Can
We
you
see slide number 6.
You see number 6?
Page 6 of 11.
Page 6 of 11. This is strange. Let me see. Can you see now 4 of 11?
It is stuck on 6 of 11. It didn't move.
So 1 second, please. I try to do it again. Can you see anything now?
No, we don't see your screen anymore. We see.
Sorry about that, but I do have some technical problems. I try to start again with my presentation. One second, please.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
No.
Just give me a sec, please.
Yes, please.
Ja. Bildschirm freigeben. So, teilen. Can you see it now?
It is starting. It's not yet there. We see it's working on it. It's going to come. Don't touch anything. No,
do you see?
We see
page 1?
Not yet. It's a message is saying that this has started. Let's wait. It's going to be loaded.
Yeah, I also do have problems with Zoom within my company because of security issues. Richard, can you see it now?
No, it is still saying okay. I might try to.
So
I
do it orally. Yes. Sorry, I will do it orally. Yes.
You can do that. I will try in the meantime to actually project your presentation. See if I can do it.
Thank you. Okay. So when I talk about the innovation process, we derive our innovation goals from the 2030 strategy that has been set up last year. And there's 3 main areas. It's hydropower and green power on the one side. Second is green. Thank you very much. Great. Yeah.
And
could we please
which page you want?
4, please. 4, and I will hurry up. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yeah, 4. Thank you, Richard. Yeah. So this is our innovation goals derived from our 2030 strategy, and what you see is hydropower and green power. But most important is also this is the emergent businesses for us. It's new storage, electric mobility, digital energy, and especially green hydrogen. Yes, thank you. So this is the different management systems and tools that we have set up. We have a dedicated innovation department now. We got into innovation as a service, internal venture capital, etc. And we just started with a technology center in one of our power station sites. Next, please. Next, please, Richard. Thank you. You probably know this from McKinsey. This is an ideal stage gate process. when we start with innovation, starting from the idea, going to feasibilities and MVPs, and then roll out and establish businesses. What we're doing here, we have a lot of innovation partnerships, whether this is universities or corporates. We started with a startup engagement program, which are entering then into micro business units. And we also have an external and internal corporate venture partnership with different organizations. Next page, please. Yes, we started with a Verbund accelerator and even we did it in pandemic times. This is big Austrian and Bavarian corporates, whether this from the different industries. We started this. It was a completely virtual process. Yeah, together with 10 partners, we derived 6 use cases, and we had more than 300 applicants from 43 countries that were pitching for those use cases. And as I said before, it was completely remote, completely virtual, but it was very successful together with all the partners we did. And the right-hand side, you also see our startup application program together with Energy Bavaria, which is a southern province of Germany, where we are very active also. Next page, please. 8, yes. As I said before, hydrogen has become a very important issue in Europe. There's a lot of funding from Brussels. There's a lot of funding in Germany, but also a lot of funding in the Central European countries like Austria. There is dedicated hydrogen strategies. There's also the EU hydrogen strategy, also from Germany. And what we did, we are going into pilot project. First Alpine on the left-hand side is the biggest Austrian steel mill. We have a 6 megawatt demo plant together with Siemens, which we erected because the steel mill says starting from 2040, 2045, they want to become 100% CO2 neutral. We started with this demo plant also in the pandemic times, which was a big effort for all the partners, but we were very successful, and it was opened only end of 2020. On the right-hand side, also we start with an international program. What you see here on the map on the right-hand side is you see Romania, where there's going to be erected a lot of new hydropower plants, also solar power plants and wind power plants. But this is the plans are very ambitious. That's why there is going to be a lot of electricity within the next few decades being produced in Romania. And this hydrogen, this green electricity should be used for the production of green hydrogen. And this green hydrogen should then be transported via ships, via vessels on the river Danube to the industrial parts of Austria and the industrial parts of Bavaria. So this is a big international and trans-European pilot project that we are planning, and where we gathered a lot of funds and subsidies in order to start with this very important hydrogen project. Next page, please, Richard. Yeah, as said before, we also went into very intense partnerships and university partnerships. On the left-hand side, you see the Stanford University. It's electromobility, it's hydrogen, and it's digital energies. This is the topics and the fields where we're working together with Stanford University. And then the right-hand side, you see the Vienna University of Economics and Business, where we're working together with strategic issues regarding the transition, energy transition into CO2-free power generation. So this is also a very important field that we started on the innovation side. And next page and last page, my resume once again. Although it was very tough and very demanding for us to start with the broad portfolio of innovation initiatives in pandemic times. We started it. We worked together very intensively with our partners, whether this is corporates or whether this is in universities. Of course, there were some delays in the deliveries, but nevertheless, we tried to adapt very quickly, and we tried to make the best use of the advantages of the new way of work, whether this is agile or other setups that we have started. And we are very positive and very optimistic. Someday the COVID-19 pandemic will end, but the pace of the innovation has never stopped. And we're very optimistic to go further with the transition of Verbund into a completely CO2-free generation activities. Thank you, Richard. And sorry for all the problems and issues that we had with the presentation. Thank you for assistance, Richard.
And my pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing with us the thinking of a 100% renewable energy utility. This is really the DNA of the Verbund, and we see that, of course, beyond the hydropower, there is all this thinking on hydrogen, where we might have a lot of hope on the role of hydrogen in the future economies. Thank you very much, Gerhard. And now I would like to invite Leonid Lev, Senior Expert and Manager of Israel Electric Company, IEC, but it's not the IEC.ch for standard development.
No, it is Israel Electric Corporation.
It's a famous electric corporation that is actually a public and government-owned company that is vertically integrated, right? The floor is yours.
Please give me to share.
If I can now, okay. Stop sharing. You are able to get control, I hope.
Okay.
Okay, it's here. Perfect. You're good to go.
Okay. I'm a head of research and development of IEC Cyber that is managed by Israel Electric Corporation. And I try to present a view of from the innovation and research unit and show some results achieved during the pandemic period. First of all, Israel Electric Corporation is defined as a low essential service provider and is recognized as a supercritical infrastructure in Israel, responsible for providing power and light during the last almost 100 years, regulated by many regulators, and not only cyber, but from the cyber part, we're regulated from two regulators, the National Cyber Regulation and the Authority of Ministry of National Infrastructure and Energy. Of course, there are a lot of different regulators influencing on our work and innovation. And one small thing I will say is that we is the most attacked company in the world. I have pictures about it, but next time maybe. So with the entrepreneurship and business unit with 25 years of experience with better proven solutions and solutions from the eyes of a stakeholder, and have an integration of critical infrastructure engineers and cybersecurity specialists. It is a very important point because our staffs from the cybersecurity and our experience during pandemic is to integrate both teams, both specialists in one team. Our knowledge and implementation of operational technology, cyber protection, and we're involved in front of European and Israel innovation programs, leading during last years more than 10 projects with European Commission and Israel Innovation Authority. Now, it's maybe my personal view of innovation process. You could find dozens of definitions of innovation. Some of them are curious, but what I'd like to say that our view with the New Zealand government that innovation is creation of development and implementation of new products, processes, and services with the aim of improving efficiency, effectiveness, and competitive advantage. So if we will see in our company innovation, first of all, I say that it is vision. Then it's our knowledge. Very important, this is a synergy of ideas that bring us to the new challenges and achievements. Of course, this has the resources, budget and the manpower resources, management of innovation in the company. So if we are looking in innovation process, I will say that first of all, it is requirement from the company or all our partners abroad, the company, to the development and research, and then this results of development of research of my unit is going to the business initiation or implementation, mainly in the pilots and then in the large projects. For instance, a very good example in our company, when we are starting 10 years ago with vision of awareness situation center, and they lead the 5 or 6 projects with Europe, even Brazil, and inside Israel. It's most of these ideas was implemented in our SOC, Cyber Operational Security Center. That is one of the best example of this innovation. Coming to this, we are saying that, okay, we have risks, but when we have risks, we have opportunities for innovation during this pandemic period. What are the risks? Risk are very known, that is economic growth is slow down and need of innovation will maybe decrease. Most of the offices teams are working remotely, problems in projects and resources management, of course, cyber threats when they are working remotely, not only teams, but remote access to the operational system. And then there is opportunities. My friend said he's working in the high-tech company, maybe many people in Israel working. He said that we have long-term planning for 5 years, and now we finish it in 1 year because of this pandemic period. So first of all, this is changing in the organization, will increase need of new technologies, especially of different technologies for remote managing, remote work, remote access, remote cooperation. And then this implementation of modern methods managed usually it was previously in the high-tech companies. We never thought that these methods could be implemented and very good implemented in the utility like us. And it works. Secure and reliable remote access technologies leading us to develop new products, innovation products for this period. And then the very important thing, and I will show you results, this is modeling of stubbornness of critical infrastructure. That is starting very important that we could develop now the near real-time models of critical infrastructures and run them. The systems make configuration and provide attacks and provide the recommendation reports to the company. So what is the problem? OT vulnerabilities integrated picture. We have no such a picture. We have no tools to validate OT vulnerabilities. We have no updated picture of OT vulnerabilities. What about, we have no updated stubbornness picture of OT systems. We have no updated recommendations to mitigate possible threats. Sorry, it is a mistake here. Secure remote access to the IT/OT systems and what's all. And then I will show you our product. We called it Sophic. That have 3 domains. One is Pro, which is mainly the workshops we provide to the companies and government to mitigate and to analyze critical. This is cyber organization. Another is picture, and this is a picture that provide the picture maker of the company during the, we called it sometimes cyber by design. That means to study cyber vulnerabilities and threats to the company during all the design steps of the projects. And 3 inside, this is Sofix Zone that I'm very proud of it. Sofix Access, this is remote access, and Sofix Info, this is information there. I will show you 2 slides about Sofix Zone because it's a very challenging system which enables organization to emulate and simulate cyber attacks in near real-time model of industrial control systems. Sofix Zone is adaptive to customers' operational life cycle, and it's based both on simulation of the elements of the system, including critical infrastructure and
Grüß Gott.
and the cyber.
Ja, ich kann so unseren Stand mitgeben. Wir haben am Dienstag nächster Woche Vorstandssitzung, den 9.
Gerard, hello Gerard, please can you unmute your phone? Can you mute your phone?
And include also the hardware in the loop techniques. And then last 10 years, we are in front of a research program, and this is our experience. So if we are looking about that, we are starting with data gathering, then we will.
Ja. Das ist
Leonid, you're muted. Hello, Leonid. Sorry, all of a sudden you're muted. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, you're back.
I was muted a long time.
No. But you're almost over time now. Sorry.
That's me. I want to go. Oh, okay. And then building the critical infrastructure and the systems that provide the configuration during events and processes, real processes, and then starting to attack this system during the processes and events. And we provide you the ongoing reports, results of mitigation and deployment, and cost effectiveness, what could be done and how could be done. And then the last slide about innovation utility companies, what could our recommendations? First of all, utility companies should be focused on the improving operational efficiency, productivity, and reliability, to recognize that the transformation will be significant, substantial, and long-term, and it will involve process. And the process begins with defining what organization wants to achieve and then developing roadmap to do so. To develop the innovation capability enabled to design, test, and iterate each concept speedily through the launch and develop or accurate new technologies, and of course, innovative company culture. And then thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can
contact us, Leonid, because of course you've been addressing this critical challenge of cybersecurity, and this is becoming a major concern to all utilities. I will look carefully into what you have developed and presented, and I will come back to you later. Thank you very
much.
Now, I would like to invite Murali Krishna Ganamani, who is CEO of Fluent Grid, which is a major solution provider. And please, Murali, could you help me making up some time? I know it's difficult, but otherwise we're going to lose audience. And I know there is a crowd waiting outside of the meeting room to get access to this meeting room. So if you can do it in less than 10 minutes and focus on the major aspects of your solutions, that would be great. The floor is yours.
Sure, Richard. Thank you. I totally understand and respect. I'll try and close it as early as possible. So firstly, good afternoon, everyone, and it's such a pleasure to participate in this session. Am I loud and clear, Richard?
You're loud and clear, please. Go ahead.
So yeah, firstly is a quick intro. I'm Murali Krishna Ganamani, a CEO and MD at Fluent Grid, and we are a two-decade-old company specializing in providing a product-based solutions to utilities, which are major focus in the last mile. There is a distribution segment, and so today I will briefly talk about the challenges that the pandemic had thrown at all of us, especially the utilities, and also share my views how the technology interventions can help get us more prepared and get us be maybe more resilient and ready for the future to face such emergencies, and perhaps also accelerate some of that digital transformation. I need to share my screen, right?
Sorry, I will have to put a bit of time pressure on you, because we start losing some participants. So.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Can you see my screen, please?
Yes. If you can move to projection mode, would be even better.
Yeah, that worked.
No, we don't see your screen.
Oh.
Do you want me to project the slides?
Yeah, that would be great if you could, please.
Let me try. Oh, we see your desktop now. So if you open up the file, it should work. Not in the Zoom, just open up the presentation. I see the file. You see the icon is almost in the middle of the screen. Move to the left. Oh, you passed it. And now you're muted. Sorry, Morales. For some reason, you're muted. Please unmute your.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Okay.
I was
So
saying, please share the screen for me if you don't mind.
Okay, but of course there is only 6 minutes left. I'm really sorry. So let me try to do the magic here. That's it. Can you see your presentation?
Yeah, not yet.
No, Richard, we cannot see your presentation either. So there's some technical problems.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, now, well, the issue is the time management.
Sure.
So
try and wrap it up in 5 minutes. So let's get to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I want to say that during the early days of the pandemic, so one thought that crossed many minds, and maybe even now, is what have we done to our planet, and is it nature's reaction to teach us a lesson to slow down, or just that it's trying to maintain ecological balance? And how do we react and recover from such occurrences in the future? And better still, how we can really prevent them. Next slide, please. So during these lockdowns, and utilities in particular had to balance the need of uninterrupted power supply, where everyone is living and working from home, and while making sure that some of their employees are always available in the office and out there in the field despite the threat of infections. And if you can recall, Mr. Ganesh, CEO Tata Power explained so beautifully how Tata Power steered this course in the most difficult times. So definitely I would like to convey my appreciation. So kudos and a big round of applause to all those utility managements and the employees in India and across the globe who continue to supply power and keep those lights on. Yeah, next slide, please. So utilities with no-touch solutions fared better. So many utilities couldn't send their meter readers onto the field and had to resort to average billing, which the other utility experts had highlighted earlier. There was no way they could distribute bills and had to depend on the media to request the consumers to pay up, because there were some mandates from the government not to kind of insist for or demand for bill payments. However, those with smart metering fared well, like the New Delhi Municipal Council, which went in for 100% smart metering, where Fluent Grid's AMI stack was deployed. Likewise, earlier speakers from Tata Power and BSS highlighted how smart meters helped during these times. While this addresses the revenue side of the problem through no-touch metering and online payments during lockdown kind of situations and other emergency, but there's several other dimensions and benefits as well to smart metering. Next slide, please. So post-pandemic, the recovery plans by many nations would eventually, lead to proliferation of green energy farms with grid-scale storage, electric vehicles connected to grid in a two-way rooftop solar with peer-to-peer sharing, behind-the-meter storage, etc. Which could lead to new technology interventions, business models, and a lot many disruptions to utility businesses, which I think both Richard and Mark also shared their views in this context earlier. And I see one common thread among all these developments, that all of them are connected and can start communicating, as soon as they are needed. And many of them could be smart at the edge itself. So which calls for a unified approach and systems for data acquisition, processing, storage, before passing them on to the downstream systems. Next slide, please. Now, being prepared is a key to success. So this will happen sooner than we can think. And if we are not prepared in terms of, there could be many such emergencies lurking out there in the future. So a utility could be flooded with, too many desperate systems if they try to do such isolated, build standalone systems to address these challenges. These disparate systems may not be able to talk to each other, and getting a unified view out of these systems would be a bigger challenge. And whether you like it or not, or you want it or not, you will eventually end up generating loads of data, and your success solely will depend on how quickly and continuously utility analyzes this data and leverages it to take the right decisions in time. Next slide, please. So now, looking at the utility operations center, this is what I wanted to highlight. So when you're leaving the technical jargon aside, utilities with limited resources would definitely like to focus on what really matters to them and with measurable outcomes. And any technology intervention and related investments should be mapped to utility KPIs And those projects must be closely monitored so that they're all well integrated with existing systems and accommodate future integrations as they happen. This is best done by setting up a centralized utility operations center. So something in the lines of Fluent Grid's UOC, which not only helps set and monitor utility KPIs, but it does so by integrating all the utility systems, thereby automating it in real time, and hence offers real-time situational awareness across the utility functions and parameters, and even network and physical surveillance in integration with systems like SCADA, CCTVs, and etc. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a case study, one of our huge, large implementation in a northern state called Uttar Pradesh. There's an Indian utility where our cloud-hosted CIS, the utility billing system, is serving over 23 million consumers. But what I wanted to kind of highlight here is we are working on bringing, this is an operation center, and especially during these pandemic times, it has been very helpful, and there are thousands of meter readers out there on the field, and all those smartphones which are more of IoT devices. So they could monitor all these meter readers' performance and whether they have been able to reach to their particular consumer's doorstep. And so we're working on bringing other utility processes also onto the same operation center platform, one step at a time. So this solution was definitely very handy during the pandemic to restore normalcy in billing operations post-lockdown. Next slide, please. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this is the New Delhi Municipal Council story. So this is the first Indian urban local body with 100% smart metering running on Fluent Grid AMI stack. It's also smart prepaid enabled. And because of its no-touch nature, its revenue operations weren't at all affected during the pandemic. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is what can be the heart or the core, nerve center of a utility, like I had spoken about earlier. And so we strongly recommend that setting up of the centralized utility operations center will help monitor utility KPIs and other real-time situational awareness. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so the centralized operations center can, give the complete handle and control, provide the much required visibility at these kind of times, and put the utility in driving seat when it comes to digital transformation. Provides comprehensive picture of various utility parameters in near real time, so that they're really empowered to take the right decisions at the right time. And pairing these utility operations with an emergency response solution really works wonders when it comes to pandemic kind of situations. And we had next slide, please. Just wanted to share, one of our case studies where, we had leveraged the operations center's emergency response capability to quickly launch an emergency response center for cities where we had implemented our command control center or the city operations center based on the same platform for the smart cities. And that helped them, treat, trace, and monitor the entire pandemic life cycle in many of these cities. So summing it up, I think in the post-pandemic world, there'll be greater push towards sustainability, which would accelerate the pace of digital transformation. And utilities would be cautious not to get carried away by the technical jargon and be very focused on the outcomes. So setting up a centralized operations center as the epicenter of digital transformation initiatives will really help them steer in the right direction. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Murali Krishna Ganamani, for this very impressive solution presented and this Actilligence that I'm sure is quite intriguing and should steer a lot of interest. Now, I would like to give the floor to RP Singh, VP of Strategic Partnership and Customer Success from Smart Energy Water.
Thanks, Richard. So let me know if you're able to see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Can you switch on projection mode?
Yeah. So is that okay now? Okay. Let me start.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of technical issues, so I don't want to waste the time on those. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk about what are the kind of innovations we have seen in the utility sector, and what is our view and thoughts on what are the kind of innovation and differentiation we bring to the table for the utility sector. Before I get into that, a couple of minutes which I wanted to share on what we do and what our mission is. I represent Smart Energy Water, which is one of the fastest growing IT company in the utility sector globally. Our mission is that we want to engage, educate, and empower every human being on this planet so that we are able to help save energy and water conservation through our digital platform. So what our key portfolios are, if you see most of the utilities who have been there in last couple of minutes have been discussing about what was the key focus area for any utility is how do they keep their customers engaged during the tough times, and how do they reach out to the customer. I think that is precisely the area we try to address as a company. And the key portfolio, what we deliver to the customers is one is called as the digital customer experience platform, where we connect the utilities with their end customer and try to give a differentiated experience to the end customer. And it is a 24/7 where it's a real time self-service capability kind of a platform. So the customer feels they are empowered to do the job by themselves. So this is one area. The second area is what we try to address is digital workforce experience, where we on one hand we try to connect the customers with the utility, on the other hand we try to connect the field force of the utility with the utility itself. So these are the two critical areas where we try to address the market. We are present in 22 countries with close to 320 plus large enterprise running our platform as of now globally, with an employee base of 700 people, 90 plus global awards what we have. So that's about a company. And before I get into sharing about our journey in last couple of months and what is our learning, I have a couple of things which I want to share. If let me know if you can see my next screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So what I feel is as the industry has evolved during pandemic, there are 5 key elements of transformation which anybody would see and experience during the time, which is from crisis to what is the new normal. And it's very important for any utility to understand what are these 5 stages for them to be prepared for any kind of eventuality or any kind of uncertainty which they see coming up in the market. The first is how you resolve the present situation, which was determining the scale, the pace, and the depth, and how you need to protect your employees, how you need to engage with the customer. So that was very critical during the resolve stage, and how you maintain a financial liquidity of the company and how you maintain a regulated supply chain. So that was the point when this started. How is the company used to how companies could resolve that issue. Then was how to make the company more resilient. So resiliency is vital for any organization. How you keep your company running in these critical times. I think that was the second stage where companies, the utilities had to focus on. The third important thing which the utilities had to focus on was when they return to the normal operation, it will be extremely challenging for them how to plan a safety measures for their employees, how to reactivate the supply chain, and how to keep things running, and how it will be a little different from what they used to do earlier. So that was the return phase. The next important phase for them is to reimagine what next normal operating model will be. So the organization with that will reinvent themselves, will survive for a longer time. And how do the company operate in this kind of a tough time? How they reimagine their business model? What new kind of a business model do they make? I think that will be very relevant for the utilities. And the final one is whenever you see a new business model which has come because of all this pandemic situation, all the kind of uncertainties which the utilities have seen, it will see a lot of reforms which will happen in the sector. New policies will have to be formed. I think that is one area where everybody has to focus on what kind of a reforms in the policies and regulations which you'll have to bring up. Moving to the next slide, which is how do you make a organization a robust organization? I think any organization which wants to become a robust to gear up for any kind of uncertainties, what is the kind of a digital platform technology they have to adopt? It all depends on 3 key pillars. So the first pillar is the purpose. So the purpose will define what kind of a digital transformation strategy a company has to have. whether the purpose is to give 24/7 supply to the customer, to give a safe or a reliable power, or anytime connectivity. So basis that purpose, the company will decide what kind of a strategy do they want to have. The second is they have to adopt to the new technologies. The organization have to adopt to the new norms of technology. They will have to build all kind of intelligent systems, all kind of a system which are powered by AI and machine learning to give an exponential exponential feel to the end customer and an exponential value creation for the internal organization. I think that is the second point. And the third point is resilient, building up a resilient organization. How you build resiliency. You have to, whenever you are tweaking the business model, you have to prepare your organization for next phase of growth. It could be leveraging latest technology. It could be leveraging technology like cloud, blockchain, AI, machine learning. I think you'll have to adopt all those kind of digital technologies. Sorry. Okay. So that's the third important pillar. Now coming to, can you see my next slide, please? Is that visible?
Yes.
Okay. So now sharing what we did differently during the pandemic period. So as I shared, as most of the utilities, for them, the key focus area was the end customer. So as I shared, our mission of the company is to engage, educate, and empower every human being and every end user of any utility. So we were empowering the end customer with technology. Now to empower the end customer with self-service capability, empowering the end customer with all kind of activities they do on a real-time basis, anytime, anywhere, any device connectivity is what we gave them. Although there were a lot of challenges what we faced, it was the challenges were how do we manage the customer expectation, how do we stay connected with the customer, and how do we help the utility in terms of revenue generation. I think those were some of the challenges what we faced, and our platform, which is the customer engagement platform and mobile workforce platform, help address those challenges. So some of the challenges which were addressed was workforce safety. How is that the workforce operate in this kind of environment, contactless delivery of the activities where the workforce was supposed to go and deliver to the end customer, or how a customer could stay connected with the utility. I think that is one area. The other was 24/7 communication with the customers and the workforce. So the platform provided them a continuous connectivity for the customer with the utility and connectivity of the field force with the utility and the end customer. So by that mean they could give round the clock services to the end customer. Everything was personalized when a customer when we activate the customer portal and a mobile app for the customer engagement piece for the utility. Everything a customer get to see is a personalized offering for them. They get to see like the critical areas. What they get to see is they get to see the bill, they get to see the usage. They are connected with the utility for the services. They connect with the utility for any kind of an outages. So everything is all self-service capability, and it is all happening on a real-time basis. So the customer felt empowered, and we could address those challenges for the utilities. So when the customers were more informed and connected to the utilities, this helped increase the revenue which the company the first 3 months of pandemic saw a major dip in the revenue collection. However, when people started adopting this platform and the utility started delivering these kind of services to the end customer, there was a certain sudden boost of revenue collection for these utilities. I think that is where most of the utilities saw an advantage in the kind of digital platform they have adopted. Moving to the next one, I think this is the platform which I was talking about, the customer experience platform. This is what we tried to give it to the utilities, where we gave a differentiated customer experience, anytime, anywhere customer service. The other important area was the home energy management, where it helped a lot of utilities in terms of maintaining a grid balance. It was also a new revenue stream for utilities, and customer felt empowered. And customer, there were a lot of information sharing which was happening with the customer. Moving on to quickly to the next one. This is the second area we were trying to address through a workforce management experience, where we connected the utilities and the field force staff, and it was a 24/7 connectivity which happened and the kind of services which the customer were expecting from the utilities could be delivered in an automated fashion. So that is what this brought a lot of differentiation to the end customer and the utility. Sharing some of the key examples, what we saw and how the utilities felt empowered from the platform what we provided to them. Examples like Alliant Energy from US. I'm sharing some of the global names here. This was activated during the pandemic, and they saw a lot of web banners were introduced on the platform where payment and billing, customer got the bills and the payment got the collection got saw a boost for the utilities. It saw a sudden increase in the adoption rate of the end customers. Moving on to the next customer, it is Corex Water. The similar kind of environment was created for Corex and the end customer. They also saw a 60% increase in the customer adoption and a 45% increase in the revenue generation for the companies. So that's about some of the global customer. And sharing some of.
Thank you very much, RP Singh. Unfortunately, we need to leave the meeting room.
Okay, so just eyeball the last slide, which is on the key critical customers for the Indian market, where we gave the same kind of an experience to companies like Indian Oil, Gujarat Gas, and Bihar Bijli. All these customers are live, and the customers are having a total differentiated experience. So that's from my side. Richard, thank you so much for your time, and
thank you, RP Singh. Excellent presentation, very rich, incredible platform, and worldwide experience that is shared. Now, just one word to conclude. Thanks to ISGF organizing such a valuable gathering. Thank you all for your patience and cooperation. I want to thank very much all the speakers for having shared incredible success stories of agility and innovation to face the pandemic crisis. As a closing word, as the UN Secretary General said, COVID-19 recovery efforts must focus on building back better, and clean energy is the ticket to growth and prosperity. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day. Now, we will give the floor to the session 2. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, bye.
Applause for the esteemed panelists and of course our chair and our moderator, Mr. Richard Schomburg. What a wonderful session, sir. Thank you for steering it. And I think getting the best out of the panel, definitely.